Live the Sky Life with my MTN Sky Premium contract packages designed to suit your needs, usage, and lifestyle. Enjoy exclusive benefits and signature experiences on a My MTN Sky Bronze plan and get 30 gigs of anytime data, 1,600 all-net minutes, 400 SMSs, and Hello World roaming, all for just $839 per month. Sign up or upgrade today. Pop into a local MTN store or visit mtn.co.za. T's and C's apply. What are we doing today? MTN.
Entrepreneurship
on 702.
So Chris Ramavhunga, my technical producer, says, listen, Brew, you've just pronounced the man's name completely incorrectly. His name is Andisa Ramavhunga.
That's correct.
Yeah? My apologies, my brother. Andisa, thank you so much for coming through. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for agreeing to have the conversation about this very topic, because it's one that's very close to my heart. I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs or people that want to be entrepreneurs, and they say, Orbs, the real problem here is that all I need is funding. I just need funding, and then I'm away. And the question is, that I usually ask is, what do you do? What is it that you promise the market that you are going to be involved in? What are you saying to them is the value you're going to bring? What do you do? And tonight you want to talk to us about strategy as a bringer of value. What does that mean? And good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Aubrey, and thank you for having me tonight. I like how you opened the show, and if I do my job very well tonight and engage yourself and the listeners, I think I would have been able to unpack strategy to become a layman's term. Because we as professionals, and mostly I blame consultants, we like creating this mystery around these corporate terms, corporate strategy, value and shareholder returns, and people can't quite return or at least understand what we mean. But I think I'll try and break it today, because I think it's a topic that anyone who's interested in business must involve themselves with. But it's something that everyone must think about when they're in business.
And that is strategy as value. Strategy as value. I remember having a conversation a couple of years ago with listeners when I said to them, listen, it is possible that your idea itself can be a magnetizer, or in other words, it can be a magnetic field for capital. The idea can be what attracts the money, the funding that you are so desperately in need of. But it's got to be developed. It's got to be refined. Talk to us about what is strategy. I'm calling it the idea, right? But what is strategy from a business science point of view, and then break it down for us in ways that we can relate to the idea too.
So the first idea, Aubrey, is that entrepreneurs need to understand that any funding, whether it's capital investments or operational expenditure, if someone was to fund any of your operations, it's a bridge between what you call an idea to when you become free cash flow as a business. It's a bridge. I know people will say some are asset investments, but at the end of the day, any money that any lender brings to you, you need to bring it back. So that's the first idea that we
usually with interest.
With interest, of course, because they need to make a return as well for their own stakeholders and shareholders. But let's demystify the concept of strategy. We happen to have, as a business, be part of what we call the Stanford Seed program, and they neatly defined what strategy is. And for me, there has never been a simpler definition of strategy. Strategy, in its simplest form, is how a business creates and captures value. That's a simple sentence. If anyone was to ask you about, and you can pick those words, and I mean, other people would like to complicate it, and it's about sustainable advantage that you have, a competitive advantage. But you'll see that
those are the
ancillary things about creating value. Particularly in a sustainable manner. And strategy involves three questions that you need to answer as an entrepreneur. One, is my product desirable? Are there any buyers out there for it? Is there a need in the market for it? And we'll come unpack what that means. The second one is, can I, as a business, is it feasible for me to deliver on that value or on that product or service that I'm and again, it's much more involved. There's a whole lot of science around it. And the third and final question, which is around sustainability, is it viable? Can I make money? If I look at the feasibility side of things, that's where I incur the costs. And I look at the desirability side of things, that's where I make the money. Can I then, from the money I make, cover all the cost and create the free cash flow? Something in between, that's where the funding will come in. But I would even argue that if you have a real gem of a business, you can actually create a business that sort of like bridges the finance from the onset. There are businesses, by the way, some of them small, that when you have a really captured market, let's look at designers, who are a typical good example. I mean, if you think about it, you cash flow them to deliver a piece of garment to you, and they call that a deposit. But one, you must understand who your market is and whether that market believes you are creating the value or not. So those are the three questions, and we can unpack them in detail to say
you said
what
designers,
exactly.
You mean clothing designers, right?
Clothing designers,
right,
yeah. There is a typical other example that
my dad would say
that almost cash flows itself.
My dad would say a dressmaker.
You see, that's where marketing comes in, because this is how you then create that euphoria around your product. Maybe dressmaker is not. Maybe it's not. but that tick in the shirt, becomes a game changer.
I hear you.
But it has all to start with value and answering all those three questions.
Yeah. So I want you to cast your mind briefly to the issue of this little drink that has been on everybody's lips. I hear at some point people were buying it for 1,500 Rand. I think it's called Prime.
Yep.
What was the strategy there?
So there, I think what happened, and again, Aubrey, I want to say that I believe that's a hype, by the way. And the reason why I'm here, I'm talking to you, is about creating value in the long term. But I think what happened there, they've got this celebrity who's a master strategist to create short-term hype. Yeah. Paul Logan, I believe, is his name. Yeah. And they loaded
another one called KSI.
KSI as well. Yeah. They loaded the euphoria. You would have seen now, I think at Checkers, the drink goes for $30, I think, or for something like that. And then what happened to that value that was created at 400 Rand at some point in time to where it is? Maybe $30 is the right price. I don't know. I'm not the determiner for that. But what I'm saying is why couldn't it stay at 400 Rand for its life? Right. And this is what we are talking about today, to say, how do you create that business that keeps that value? Remember, I said it's about creating the value and capturing the value.
Okay. So I get it from this conversation that strategy is the idea or even the product that you want to sell into whatever market, plus the plus the need that the market has for your product or idea, plus the viability of that idea. In other words, is it going to make money?
Yeah.
If those three components are not there, then you don't have a strategy?
Absolutely. So it's about ticking it's a tick box exercise if you think about it. It's a tick box from a sense of these are things you need to think about. It does not suspend the process of thinking about those things. So you simplify them a bit, but let me go to that desirability component of it. You have an idea. And we meet a lot of entrepreneurs, by the way, even in my endeavor, where it's all about the idea. It's all about this innovation. And most of them are very great ideas. They are very noble ideas. But there's quite a number of things you need to think about, as I've illustrated earlier. So in that desirability aspect of it, there are 4 further questions you need to think about. So it's the idea itself, which we call the value proposition. It's then the market for it. Who has the need for it? You need to think very carefully about those ones. And I love that you brought the idea of Prime, because I thought when they came in, they had mastered, I mean, the value proposition was there was this drink and the branding around it. So it's not only about the idea, but it's also the packaging and the brand positioning that you are creating in the mind of the market. But it's also about who is the intended target market for this. Who has this need? Maybe Prime has a very unique market of noble people who don't want to drink the rest of the drinks that all of us drink. Maybe that could have been a big enough market for them to launch on and then spread the idea. So those are just two of the components. The last two are around what are the channels? How do you get to that market? How do you service that market? How do you deliver that value proposition? How do they come and become aware of it? And I believe this is where Paul and them were very great in the sense that they created that euphoria, that awareness. Probably the fulfillment was not there, but it came in. I saw it was on Take a Lot at some point in time at $400. I don't know what happened when it went to Checkers, because that's a retail distribution where it went to 30 Rand. But
I suppose that the Checkers sort of component of this whole story ended the novelty in the sense that it became available.
Again, I'm not privy to the strategy.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the strategy.
Yeah.
I don't know what their end game
because
is.
my sense, as you said, is that it was hype.
Yeah.
And hype usually is about exclusivity.
Yeah.
It's about, I got it and you don't.
Yeah.
The moment everybody can get it, the hype dies.
Yeah.
So my sense is that what the Checkers component of this whole equation became was the death of the hype. And the hype depended on the exclusivity, on the fact that it wasn't freely available, and therefore the price could be taken up.
So I'm glad we're having this conversation, and you're starting to understand the issue around value creation.
Yeah.
So those are strategic choices, right?
Right.
I mean, they could have decided not to go Checkers. By the way, they could have decided we are going to launch
To sustain the hype.
a retail store called Prime,
Yeah.
and have a Clandenstein way of driving into the market, but maybe order online. It's still the exorbitant. That could have been a strategic choice for them. But for the mere fact that they went to this choice is the reason that I'm saying maybe there's some other angle. We're not privy to the strategy. Maybe there was that element that says, let's make it exclusive. Let's drop the exclusivity. Maybe that creates a wider appeal to people, and then we'll go mass market, which is through Checkers and probably some of the retailers if they move in there. But those are the strategic choices as an entrepreneur you need to grapple with and decide for yourself to say, this idea that I have, how am I going to manifest it in the market? So before we digressed a bit, Aubrey, the final component to this desirability factor, and again, it's what we're talking about now, is how are you going to manage the customer relationship? Is it a one-on-one type of, is it a very hands-off, or is it a mass appeal type strategy? So that desirability component, those are the four, I guess, key questions you need to think about. I mean, we have not even started about the feasibility, and I'm sure we'll go in. You'll start seeing that as an entrepreneur, you start thinking about these things. We have not even started thinking about money, right? Maybe with Paul and them, the way of generating money was the hype. I don't know.
Give us a call, 011-883-0702. My guest is Andisa Ramavhunga, Group Chief Advisor at Andisa Consulting Group. We're talking about strategy to create value. We'll talk in a few moments' time about what value is connected to the idea of strategy that you and I are talking about now. But folks, let me contextualize this conversation. I believe very strongly that you will not be able to create wealth by working for somebody else. It's just not going to happen. I'm talking about real wealth, right? I am committed to the idea of creating more and more entrepreneurs in this country that are going to create more and more value. My sense is that, at least in our context, the days of large corporates being the breakers of the cycle of poverty are gone. If they're going to break any poverty, it's going to be for their own shareholders, not for you and I. And what needs to happen is that we need to start applying our minds to what is needed in our society. What is needed in our society in order for us to be able to develop the strategies to bring the goods and services that are going to serve that need for profit. I'm committed to that idea. I believe that is my contribution to the process of breaking the cycle of poverty. I'm convinced that that's the way to go. But in order for us to be able to do so, we've got to understand how business works. We've got to understand how it works. whether you sell Amakwinya, whether you sell Diavkop, whether you sell AI-driven solutions, whether you sell, all of these ideas have to have their genesis on what we're talking about now. Strategy. The idea that is needed that is going to create value for you. That is what we're talking about here now. Now, I want you to give me a call on 011-883-0702 as I speak to Andisa about what your business idea is. Because very often, those of us that are involved in business will say, all I need is funding. Well, does the idea that you want to fund, is it worthy of the funding that you say you need? Is that idea refined enough? Does it have enough power in it to attract money? Because maybe you don't need money. Maybe you just need a more refined idea. Give me a call. I'd love to hear from you. 011-883-0702. I want to go ridiculous. I don't care what you think your idea is. As long as it's a business idea. Let's test it against some of the principles that Andisa is talking about. And whether or not your idea can be made to be a magnetic field for capital. The funding that we like to talk about. Give me a call. 011-883-0702 is the number to dial. I suspect, Andisa, that the reason why we don't get the funding most of the time, even though we've got the so-called business plan, is because the person that is looking at the business plan doesn't feel like the strategy or the idea is refined enough?
Absolutely. Think about people who lend money. It's typically not theirs as well, right?
Sure.
They have to get the money from somewhere else. So if they do not believe in the robustness of the idea, let me not just say the idea, because sometimes you'll find that the ideas themselves are good,
yeah.
But maybe the ideas are not tested in the market.
The applicability of that idea
is not tested in
real
the market.
Life, yeah.
Then the risk is higher. So who stands to lose more there? Is it the guy who puts in the money or the guy who comes up with the
Sure.
idea? And hence the reluctance then to lend the money. We might argue that obviously for those ones that are high impact in terms of societal value, developmental finance must come in. But again, that's money that we cannot waste.
Sure.
as a country. So the notion of money just being there, it has to go with the value creation that we're speaking about. Ultimately, and this is ultimately, and I welcome to debate anyone about what I'm about to say, is that the funder of the idea is the market. If there's no market, there's no business. The question then becomes, what is the time to cash flow to the market? And that's what you get the funding for. But other people who are clever are able to structure it in a way that they are able to get a certain upfront. I mentioned, you said the dressmakers. But by the way, if you remember the story of Pick and Pay, I mean, that's their classic business model, right?
Yeah.
Where they used to get goods from suppliers without paying for them, and they'll stay in their shelves for a good 60 to 90 days. I think that's
those suppliers were actually their bank, right?
They were banking them,
yeah.
And they paid the suppliers after 90 days. So I'm not saying everyone could be a Pick and Pay. Obviously, there's a long journey to getting there and differentiating yourself. But there are ways of raising money off your business model. If you think about what you are going to do, that product market fit, I think there's some interesting innovations that could come out of that space if an entrepreneur is thinking at that level. And by the way, if you think at that level, that's when you tend to attract a lot of funding. If you think about what's happening in the US around the Stanford area, Silicon Valley, a lot of those ideas that are coming out of there have never made a lot of money. In fact, we could count the number of those startups that have started to make money. Quote me on this, is not a lot of them. But what has happened to them is that they've created a lot of value. If you think about the likes of Facebook, in fact, I think it's one of them that is not broken even as well. But you cannot doubt the value that's created in the society. Think of Uber is another one. I think is going. Yep. Airbnb is in the same vein. They have not created value in terms of money.
Yeah.
But you cannot doubt that they've changed the way that we interact when it comes to Facebook, the way that we ride a taxi when it comes to Uber, the way that we book a hotel. And those ones are, by the way, are innovative business models, right? I mean, if you think about Airbnb, it doesn't own any hotels, but yet it's the biggest hotel manager in the world. If you think of Uber, it doesn't own any taxis, and yet it's the biggest taxi operator in the world. You think about Facebook and its social networking, and what they are doing with the messaging now, with the buying of WhatsApp and the other related technologies. These guys are changing the world. And by the way, I'm saying they have not made money, but guess what? They are attracting a lot of money.
011-883-0702. So what's your idea? Do you still think that all you need is funding? Give me a call. How refined is your idea? How practical is it? If you were the funder, would you fund your idea in its current state? Give me a call. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. 011-883-0702. Because I think that what we need is the confidence to understand that the money comes from the market. Yeah? The money comes from the market. We just need to be able to convince lenders to bridge us. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Give us a call. 011-883-0702. If your idea is not good enough, then it's not going to attract the money. We have conversations, Andisa, on this show about how banks and various institutions aren't really interested in lending startup businesses money, and I would agree with that banks aren't in that business to lend people money. Talk to me about that.
I mentioned this earlier. Remember how a bank works, right? You and I go put in money in there, and they then go lend the money. It's not their money. So the risk of them losing that money is catastrophic. The reason that they'll then bank almost winning horses. They're very reluctant to fund startups. And you can, by the way, check other models or research about other models in the world. You'll see that startups are typically funded by venture capitalism. And we can have a whole debate around the state of venture capital in this country and how government can play a role in there. But I still say that I do not blame banks when they are very risk averse with capital. It is not their money. It is not their money. It's other people's money, and therefore they need to be careful with risking. And this is not to say, by the way, banking in South Africa has no challenges, particularly from, I guess, from your earlier discussion around, I think after you mentioned things around race and marginalization, I'm not by any way exonerating the banks from...
there's a big racial inequality conversation we still need to have about our banks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a huge conversation we still need to have about that, yeah?
Yeah, but we're making it easy for them when we come with ideas that are untested.
Right. Yeah. Give us a call, 011-883-0702. See lots of calls already coming through on 011-883-0702. We're challenging you to say that maybe you don't need money, that maybe all you need is a very good idea. And maybe not just a very good idea, but an implementable very good idea that will attract the money. That's what we're saying. I'm looking forward to these calls on 011-883-0702. Perhaps what we could do is we could ask you to call in and pitch an idea to Andisa. And let's see if it lives up to those three components of what a strategy is before we get into the conversation about value. I've got a feeling this is going to be too short. I've got a feeling this hour is just going to be too short. So we really need to make this a marathon conversation. And that's what this show is known for. Yeah. We don't do sprints. We do long distance conversations. 011-883-0702. We're talking about strategy as your capital. That's your capital. Your strategy is your capital. But it's got to be refined, folks. It's got to make the person that's got the money in his hand say, I am willing to part with this money because I believe that this idea is going to make more money for you, for me, and the shareholders who actually own the money. Give me a call. I'd love to hear from you. 011-883-0702. I have declared war against poverty. But we don't get to win this battle by not using the stuff between our ears. We've got to start thinking. Wealth is the direct ability of a human being to think about their circumstances and create value. We've got to start using the stuff between our brains, folks. We've got it. It's here. We've got people that can help us understand these things and make them alive in our given situations. We got lots of calls, brother. You want to take some calls?
Of course we can.
All right, let's put on your ears there. My guest is Andisa Ramavhunga. He is Group Chief Advisor at Andisa Consulting Group. He suggests that you don't actually need money. You need a good idea. You need an idea that is refined, that is applicable, that is able to be applied. That is where your money is. That's where your money is going to come from. In fact, he goes further to say, actually, it's not the funding that's going to be your money. Your money is the return you get from your product or idea being valuable in the market. Valuable meaning that people actually need it and use it. So, if you've got a website, you don't have a business. You've got a website. Hey, no, I've got lots of friends of mine. No, I've got a business. I'm CEO of my website. No, Papa, that's just a website. There's a business. Give me a call. I'd love to hear from you. 011. No, I've got a brand. I've got a brand of concept. Is that thing practical? Is it being wanted in the market? Is somebody willing to part with money to be able to attain what it is that you're offering? That's the question. 011-883-0702. Kevin is in Kailami. Hi, Kevin. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, gentlemen. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good, thank you, Kevin. Go ahead, man.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah.
Really, really good to chat to you both. Look,
much appreciated.
I've got a very... look, I'm listening to your show, and it just triggers some really, really good thoughts. I mean, you can probably hear from my accent, I'm not a local, but what I do know and love is rugby. For me, we are sitting on a gold mine in Johannesburg. We have got a wonderful team in the Joburg Lions. However, we are not bringing them to the fruition that they need to be, which is, shown to the world as the best rugby team that there is there. My business plan and strategy and desire is to build a 25,000-seater stadium somewhere in Fourways, get a good, loyal fan base behind that team, and build it up from there. And why I say that is because you look at the URC, you look at all these international teams that are playing now within South Africa. We are showing the world that we have got a very lackluster team within the Joburg Lions. If we, in my view, have got a loyal fan base in a 25,000-seater stadium, in a Fourways, in a Hyde Park, or somewhere where people want to go watch the rugby, bring their family, bring their kids, you will make an absolute fortune out of that. That is
why, Kevin? Why would we have a loyal fan base?
Well, we do already have a loyal fan base, but the issue we have is that not a lot of people want to travel to Ellis Park on a Saturday afternoon with the kids. Let's call a spade a spade. It's not in the best areas within Johannesburg. If you were to bring that brand of rugby to a jurisdiction that is, amenable for families and people to go watch rugby on a Saturday afternoon, you will build up a loyal fan base. You will build up a business model that you can then, grow from. The fact of the matter is, if you look at French rugby, English rugby, Welsh rugby, Irish rugby, all of these top teams are playing in a 25,000-seater stadium every week. Nobody is playing at a 60,000-seater stadium, which is half empty. You will then build a premium model for rugby, which you can then expand throughout the Stormers, the Cheetahs, and so on. So you will also then attract major sponsorship.
Kevin, let's get my guest to comment on your idea. As an idea, what do you make of the idea, Andisa?
So, Kevin, I'm not a big rugby fan, although I have some bit of knowledge because I grew up in Johannesburg. I guess you meaning the Lions team. in this particular
I'm
aspect?
talking, in particular about the Johannesburg Lions team.
Yeah,
Correct.
I think the Lions are a particularly interesting team. If you remember, they've had just in recent time some major investors. And by the way, I do not doubt that you've got your market there, because Gauteng would necessarily be their home base, and all the rugby lovers there would then become that market. And it's about the number of games then you play here and so forth. But are there any constraints maybe from the franchising point of view? Because I mean the Lions are at some point I thought they were going to blow up, because I do not believe theirs is an idea that has no strategy. I do believe that theirs is a management issue, which we can talk about something. Once you have strategy, we can talk about other things you need to consider in terms of getting your idea into the market. I don't know. What's your take on that one?
I think you've got two aspects to this. One is strategy. Yes, strategy in my mind is a lot of PowerPoint presentations, a lot of hours spent around the boardroom, and then there's execution.
Yeah.
And then there's one thing that I think any strategy needs, which is desire. You need somebody that's got the passion, the charisma, the want to actually deliver this to a people and to a market, and actually capitalize on the money-making generation. I'll give you an example. For instance, if you had a 25,000-seater stadium and you were to sell season tickets to that stadium, you would know upfront what your cash flow model is for that year, because you would have 25,000 people buying that season ticket. Then, over and above that would become a premium item, because you and I would want to go to watch the rugby. You and I would want to bring our kids and so on and so forth. You would then want corporates getting involved, etc. But for me, this is a low-hanging fruit.
Tell me, Kevin.
Area.
Tell me why it has not been executable.
I think there's too much red tape. I think there's too much politics. I think it will be done in the next 3 years. And the reason I say it will be done is, number one, there is TV rights involved. Now you've got the URC and you've got the Heineken Cup, who are airing the Stormers, the Cheetahs, the Sharks, etc. But the Joburg Lions is not in that category yet. They will be with some investment. My view is that if you get them out of Ellis Park, where they are playing in front of 4,000 or 5,000 people, and put them into a local, well-supported, good jurisdiction, good area, from a transport, from a restaurant, bars, etc., you will attract that clientele, i.e. the fan base, who will then go and support the team.
Kevin?
Right now, if you were to ask me to go to Ellis Park, I wouldn't want to go, because it's in a rundown area and it's not supported.
Kevin and Kalami, thanks very much for your call. Much appreciated. Yeah, and I suppose Kevin raises some very important issues. Eh?
So I thought I didn't want to tell him directly that I don't believe that theirs is a strategy issue from a technical point of view. Yeah, maybe Ellis Park, but you can. I mean, building a stadium is a capital intensive. And I don't know what the numbers stack up, but I don't doubt for a moment that from a strategy point of view, it's a very interesting proposition. I do think the biggest inhibitor there, and I think he touched on it, is leadership. It's leadership. So once, and I do hope I get to speak to you, because today, Aubrey, we're talking about subtle nuances of strategy. I said it was about 3 questions. Do you have a desirable product? Is it feasible for you to do? Is it viable? That's not the be it and all. Once you have that, there's other things that you need to throw on top of it. Things around leadership, things around the people you have, how you organize yourself to deliver on the business, some of the routines that you build, and the culture of the people. For me, this rugby, and I don't purport to know too much about it, I think it's got a very rich culture. I don't for a moment doubt that there's something there. I have not tested the numbers, but the idea itself sounds, if you were to look at it from the market value proposition and even the feasibility point of view. I mean, they've recently, if you remember, Kumete was one of the investors in the Lions team in the very recent past, where they were able to raise, I guess, was some good funding. Subsequently, was pushed out. I do suspect there's something there around leadership and cultural issues.
I want to even add and say that even the whole idea of the area not being desirable, depending on. Because I think it can be made to be desirable in the sense that Kevin wants to make. I think that you can make that place desirable. I remember not too many years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago, we saw Bulls fans come to Orlando Stadium in ways that have never been repeated before, because there was enough goodwill and leadership to make that part of Soweto attractive, even to the rugby, to the quintessential rugby supporter. I want to take some more calls, by the way. I've got lots of calls. Can I take 2 calls at a time? Because we've got lots and lots of calls, and I want to entertain everybody's calls. Sihle is in Piri. Hi, Sihle.
How's it?
Yeah, good, man. Go for it.
I've got a clothing brand, fortunately enough, and my clothing brand is called Spiva. It's based on my love for the Beetle. So Spiva is a coined name of a Beetle, the classic VW Beetle in Soweto.
Yeah.
So how I do it at the moment, although I need funding, I'm trying to spread my clothing by doing pop-up markets. So that's a strategy to sell to different people who can't make it to a physical shop that's located in a specific area. So that's when I can, get different customers from all walks of life. And it's also a good way of, working around, building a brand. I don't incur a lot of overhead costs. So by spreading my signature into different markets, I also delegate and employ different people. So it's job creation, and it's also, reaching a market that I wouldn't reach if I had a physical store in a certain place. Although we also sell online. Yeah. So if we get funding for our business, we'd be able to employ more people. We'd be able to do more activations. We'd also be able to, venture into more creative ideas.
So how come you haven't gotten the funding, Sil?
Sometimes when you pitch the idea, it doesn't land on the right ears. They don't see the vision and, what we actually intend. So I've gone into proving the concept by being at pop-up markets and actually selling directly to customers. And we've gotten our brand into Edgar Center City today. We were at the Commerce Makers Market this past long weekend. So, being on the ground and actually selling,
making it happen. Yeah.
It actually makes it possible. So this is also a true story of, proving the value from what you have.
Viva Spiva. Sihle, listen, I want you to listen on the radio for the comments from our guests, but don't stop, bruh. And maybe we can get in touch with you and see how we can turbo boost your idea at some point, yeah? Sihle is in Piri, Soweto. I want to take a call from Ronald in Johannesburg. Good evening to you, Ronald.
Hey, Aubrey and brother Andisa, how are you keeping?
Very good, man. Are you well?
I am fantastic and inspired with this conversation.
Come on.
To share some sentiment with everyone is that, I know Brother Andisa very well, and he is an advisor, a mentor. And often when we as entrepreneurs, as we start off with our first venture, we tend to rely on capital as being the Achilles of why we can't progress.
Yep.
It's money why we can't progress. But the reality is that actually becomes your hindrance, your excuse, and the narrative that you repeat on a hamster wheel. Where the opportunity also exists, which is potentially more valuable than rands and cents, is finding the right mentor, the right leadership, the right community to support you. And Brother Andisa has done that for numerous entrepreneurs, including myself. And that is more valuable because don't feed me fish, but teach me how to fish. Yeah. And that is the principle of entrepreneurship. It's a hustling. It's the working the hustle muscle every day. And it boils down to, it's going to be painful. It's going to take some time and effort. But this is what Andisa brings to the equation. And yes, there were instances where capital can be accessed. There's numerous ways.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, we've lost Roland there. Or Ronald there. You know Ronald?
I know Ronald very well. He's the CEO of a wellness company.
Right.
In fact, I'm his recent client. He's going to do wellness. The company is called Healthy Living Consulting, and we do quite a lot of work together. But thank you for those kind words, Ronald. But I look forward to...
I want to take one more call from Sidwell, and then I want you to sort of combine the principles coming out of those comments. Sidwell, hi. Hi, Sidwell.
Hello.
Yeah, how you doing, man?
Good, and you.
Excellent.
You love those boys. You love those boys. It was Mielani, now it's Andisa. I think Alex is next.
No, Alex was before Andisa. So we've had Alex here. And you on the money. I love the boys that are thinking about breaking the back of poverty, Sidwell.
Those are my boys. Sidwell Mufukeng, he knows me very well.
Yeah, go for it, Sidwell.
I'm excited. You know, they tickle my fancy every time.
Yeah.
But quick one. The issue of Andisa, of the value that you create, bankability of the strategy versus risk and exposure. How do you navigate that? That's it. That's me.
Sidwell, thank you very much, my brother. I appreciate the call. Yeah, Sidwell in Johannesburg. How do you respond to everybody? Sihle doing it. Pop-up shops.
I'm loving Sihle's story, by the way, Aubrey. I could not quite get his issue, but it does sound like he's got a channel problem, which is around a channel strategy. He did mention something online, and I wanted to probe further to say, but what is he seeing happening online, and how is it influencing his future pop-up strategy that he is thinking about? But some of these things, if he's listening, it's not really about
in fact, I still have him.
Getting the money
directly.
Yeah.
Sihle, are you there?
I'm still
Yeah, he's still here. Yeah, go.
Yeah. So I was still remarking to Aubrey here around your. It sounds like your product is desirable. I could not pick up whether your challenge sounds like it's a channel strategy issue that you are battling with, but also to me it sounds as if as well you've not highly segmented your market, and I'm not sure because I'm hypothesizing here, but we can have a conversation. But I did say you have to be, and I agree with Aubrey, you have to be in the game. It sounds to me like yours is a positive story. You just need to ride the wave. And it's quite important that you bootstrap your business. I keep on saying that when we build our business, people don't believe. We've never really had any funding. In fact, we've never had not even an overdraft. And our business is 18 years old today, and we've built a business now that sits with about 220 people that we pay salaries each and every month. We invest into equipment, we're buying vehicles and so forth, and it's about bootstrapping your business. So whatever retain money earnings you make, you have to invest it in and be patient and allow yourself. It can't be done overnight, but you have to be in it in a long haul. But obviously there are things we can look at around optimizing your market segmentation. I still think maybe the issue is that you are reaching too wide, or there is a channel strategy play that could be exploited to see if you are increasing your value in the short term. But failure to capitalize on both of these is just a long game for you. I think it's only a matter of time. And it's about you reinvesting into the business to make it work. But it does sound like you've got a very good thing going.
Sihle and Piri, thanks very much. Sidwell's question?
I guess the reason why we are thinking about these things is to minimize the risk of failure. You cannot obviously eliminate a failure completely because, that's entrepreneurship. You have an idea. You have a rough indication of how this market works. What you have to do, as I was saying, is just tick the boxes. Think about all these elements. Think about your desirability. Think about your viability. Think about your feasibility and then your viability, and go test it out. Because, they say strategy without execution is useless, but execution without strategy is aimless. And it's an iterative story. You have to try it and pilot it and see if it works. And every time you fail, by the way, you
learn something new.
You learn and minimize the risk, because the next time you do it, you'll do it much, much better.
Listen, we've run out of time. Are you going to come back again?
I'd love to come back. Okay.
Listen, how do people find you? There's lots of calls still wanting to
I think the first thing I have to mention, we are trying to launch a podcast where we'll delve deep into these concepts. There's a number of concepts on strategy that we've spoken about, on organizational design, which touch to Kelvin's issue around leadership and how you organize yourself as a business, the culture and the people that you want to get involved in the venture. So there's quite a lot that we talk about, and we'll delve deep in the podcast when we launch it, and people must be in the lookout for that. But in the interim, you can visit our website. We are quite an expansive business. We are at www.ndisoconsulting.co.za. We've got 3 subsidiaries. The one we were talking about today was our business consulting wing. But the podcast, as it goes out, it will touch on all the 3 streams. We've got a proposition on revenue management for utilities. We also have quite an exciting one around industrialization and investments into catalytic projects.
Listen, it's been a great conversation. I'm hoping to have you again soon. Sid, you like these young? I do. I love guys that are breaking the back of poverty. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming to us this evening. Andisa Ramavhunga, Group Chief Advisor at Andisa.